Well, I'm out here doing a little shooting today, and I thought I'd take just a couple of minutes to show you guys one of the other rifles that's kind of what I consider one of the staples of my firearms collection. So first of all, the purpose of this rifle is primarily big game hunting and longer range shooting. In any kind of a bug out scenario, for a defensive or offensive situation, I think anything 300 yards and under, I'm way better off just with my AR-15 with the low power Leupold patrol scope I have on it. Where this rifle comes in is it ranges longer than that. So first, just a little bit about the rifle. The rifle is a stock factory Remington 700 SPS. It has a 22-inch barrel, adjustable trigger. The only thing I've really done to this rifle is adjust the trigger and adjust the torque on the screws that lock the receiver into the stock. Outside of that, the only other thing I've done to it is I put this highly customized Coyote Works cheek rest on here to give just the perfect cheek weld for me. As far as how I have the rifle set up, I have mounted on it a Vortex 4-16 power scope with this particular reticle is the VMR1 reticle, as it has stadia lines, large stadia lines at 4 MOA increments and smaller stadia lines at 2 MOA increments in it. The scope gives me the ability to be able to make click adjustments or use my stadia lines to hold over for different ranges. The base that I have on it is a Night Force base with 30 minutes of angle built into the base. That just allows me to kind of get the maximum out of my elevation adjustments on the scope. The rings are Leupold Mark IV rings. So I keep a pretty simple sling on the rifle. This is just a Magpul adjustable 2-point sling. When I'm carrying the rifle in the field, I usually just sling it over my left shoulder or my support side shoulder. And then when I want to deploy the rifle, I point the muzzle towards my target, and as I point the muzzle towards my target, I'll then turn the rifle and bring it up to my shoulder. So I have this rifle zeroed at 250 yards. I really like a 250 yard zero for the 308 because that gives me about a 300 yard maximum point blank range, which is the range under which at any given point in there I can take a center of mass hold on roughly a torso sized target and feel pretty confident that I'm going to get a lethal hit or close to a center of mass hit. With a 250 yard zero with my scope height about 2¼ inches, about the maximum above or below the line of sight that my bullet will be at any given point will be about 3½ inches or so. So first, let's talk a little bit about the setup. I really like to shoot off of a pack. For my most accurate shooting, I like to be prone and shooting off of a pack. In this case, the target is about 250 yards behind me, or exactly 250 yards behind me up on that hill. And 250 yards is a decent distance. So I've got a ground cloth laid out. This will just help me be a little bit more comfortable. It's a Bushcraft USA 10x10 tarp and Coyote. I've got my Tactical Tailor 3-day assault pack that is my rest, and if you were to look closely at this pack, you would see it has powder burns all over it from shooting off of it. Then there's a couple of things that I like to have next to me when I'm shooting. One is my ammunition that I'm using, and right now, for the most part, I shoot 2 different rounds through this rifle. One is the Federal XM80CL ball ammunition. That's a Full Metal Jacket boat tail. That's what I shoot for just my general burning through ammo, practicing, having fun round. The second round that I shoot is a Federal Gold Medal 168 grain match round. It's a 168 grain Sierra Match King bullet, and it's one of the most accurate rounds that I've shot out of this rifle. Besides my ammunition laid out next to me, I like to have a good pair of binoculars. In this case, I use the Steiner 10 power binoculars. These binoculars have an illuminated compass built into them, which is really nice when I'm trying to talk a spotter or a shooter in on a target. We can call out degrees of a compass heading for them to look to. And then I've got my Leica 1200 yard rangefinder. The Leica makes a great product. I've had this rangefinder for almost 10 years now, and it works awesome. The battery life is great. I always consider my very first shot out of my cold bore to be my most important shot. From a perspective of hunting, or maybe even defense or offense, it's that first shot that probably I need to count the most. So here I want to find my natural point of aim. I want to get my rifle bagged in and my body positioning set up so that it's naturally aligned with the target. So my crosshairs are where I want them to be without it being necessary for me to be muscling the rifle or holding it. So I'm just going to get myself set here before I take my first shot. All right, I really like the lay of my rifle, so I'm going to take my first shot. All right, so not too bad. I've got some wind. So these are my last two 5-shot groups with ball ammo, and they're both averaging about 3.5, 3 3/4 to 4 inches. They're all kind of drifting to the left just a little bit, but I wasn't taking any correction for the wind. So probably about, you know, that the center of those groups is about 2 inches to the left, which is probably about right for the value of wind I had. So that's not too bad. That gives you an idea of what cheap ball ammo through the Remington SPS can do. One of these other times I'm out shooting, I'll show you what it can do with the Federal Gold Medal match. But it about cuts that in half, maybe even a little bit more than half with the Federal Gold Medal match ammo. So that gives you guys a little bit of an overview on another one of the firearms that I use pretty regularly and is part of kind of my overall system, and a few of the pieces of gear that I use when I'm out doing some long range shooting. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Coyote Works out. Adjusting hold to 7 minutes.
Yeah, and about almost the same to the left.
Dead on. Perfect.
Yeah. Dead on.
Oh,
Now you gotta knock the plate back down. Do you see the...
Now you gotta knock it back down.
All right, I'm gonna see if I can knock that plate back on there.
All right.
It's a much smaller target now.
Yes, it is. Good job, Casey. That was awesome.
All right.